Hello everyone, it's Jen. Welcome back to another project with Heffy Doodle. Today I'm creating two cards, an A2 size card and a fun heart-shaped card using the same design. So the stamp set that I'm using today is Elfish, Antics, and then I'm bringing in a couple heart stamps from the Happy Snappy Crocs stamp set. I'm going to get started here by stamping out my images. There's some new essential craft tools and supplies that Heffy Doodle is now carrying. One of them is this amazing alcohol-friendly cardstock. I love it. It's a beautiful bright white. And I'll show you some of the other things that are new to the shop as well in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp out all my images with some Lawn Fawn jet black ink. I don't know what I was doing. I was a little heavy-handed there shaking the camera, but I do stamp this out a couple times. And then I'm going to clean up my stamps with my stamp chamois, and I'm going to show you the new stamp chamois case here that's available in the Heffy Doodle shop. It's really cute. It's got a whole bunch of the little Heffy Doodle bears, and then it has Heffy Doodle written on the inside. Now, when I wipe these off, I do want to stamp this little heart again. It wasn't quite dry, so you're going to see that right-hand side smudges a little bit. So I'm just going to wipe that off on my hand to dry that, and then I'll stamp that again. So I'm going to use two small hearts and one of the larger hearts for my card today. So now we'll jump into the coloring. So I'm going to do a darker skin tone, and I'm going to use E25, E35, and E33 for that. And all of the marker caps are listed to the left-hand side. You can see them there, and I always list them with the darkest color to the top and then going down to the lightest on the bottom. So for the darker skin tone, it blended out quite a bit, so I am going to use that same color combination and go over it a second time, and you'll see that darkens up that skin tone nicely. Now I did get a little bit of that brown to the left hand side of his face. I'm just going to clean that up with my colorless blender. That will push back that color. You can see now it's dry and you can't see it anymore. I'm also going to be doing a lighter skin tone. So for that I'm using E13 as my darkest, E11 as my midtone, and then E00 as the lightest color. Now when I'm using a light color for the faces such as the E00 or the E000, I just try not to touch the ink on their faces. Sometimes it can smudge a little, so I'm always pretty careful there. So for the blush, I'm using E04 for the darker skin tone and then R20 for the lightest skin tone. And then we can move on to the hair. So for the darkest hair color that I'm using today, I'm using E49, E79, and then E74. And I'm leaving that highlight to the top there. So I've got his darkest shadows to the bottom of his hair and under the hat. For the girl, I was going for like a dirty blonde color. I'm using E35, E34, and E31. So her shadows will be to the bottom of her face there and then along the side of her hat. And I also gave a little bit of a darker shadow to the bottom of the top part of her hair there. For the shoes, I'm just doing one color. I'm doing E25. I didn't want to spend a lot of time adding shading to that. They're kind of not something that is really prominent in the cards, so you don't always have to do multiple color blends on every part of your images. So for the greens, I love this color combination for Christmas. I'm using G29, G46, and G43. So I'm going to be coloring their outfits in this green color. So I'm just laying down my darkest marker first here. So for the hats, I'm going to have that darker shadow to either side for him, just so that it looks a little bit rounded. Now because her face is kind of facing or tilted upwards, I'm only going to put that dark shadow to the bottom kind of left-hand side there because the light would hit the top of her little hat. For the outfits, I'm adding the shading under their necklines and in the bottom parts of their arms because it would be darkest there. And then for him down the sides, and again for her just kind of around the back part of her outfit because again, some light would hit the front of her little dress there. So just blending out that mid-tone with my lightest marker here. And these colors blend beautifully together. This is a great color combination for Christmas trees as well if you're looking for one. For his pants and then also the little design elements there, the stripes across the top of their hats, and then on her dress I'm using yellow. So I'm using Y26, Y15, and then Y11 for that color combination. And this just kind of gives a really nice golden color. So I was kind of going for the same kind of outfit as Elf in the movie would wear. So that was my inspiration for him, and then just sort of colored her up to match. I'm also using the Y26 for his belt buckle and the little buckle on his shoes. Now for his belt, I'm just doing C5. And then for the white areas, I'm doing a color combination with my cool grays, the C3 for the darkest, the C1 as my lightest, and then I'll bring in the 0, which is the colorless blender, just to push back some of that gray, and that will make it appear white. And you'll see how much that pops, especially with the candy cane as I color in the red. So for my red color combination, I'm using R39, R29, and R24. Again, one of my favorite red combinations for Christmas cards. I just love the dark shadow the R39 gives, and then that really nice kind of cranberry pop of color with the R29 and the R24. So once I have my hearts and my candy cane finished, then I can go ahead and use the coordinating dies to die cut out my images. And I will be using the elf and the little girl elf as well, and the candy cane for both of my cards today. For the A2 size card, I'm going to use the 3 hearts. So I'm using some pattern paper from Simple Stories. This is the Vintage North Pole. It's a 6x8 paper pad. And I chose this really fun striped pattern paper. It went perfect with my color palette. It's got the red and the greens, and then it's also got the yellow. So I'm also bringing in this banner die. So this is from the new Mini Essential dies that was just released from the Heffy Doodle shop. And all of the products that I will be using today will be listed down below. I'm also using a new cardstock color. This is Kiwi Crush. And you'll see here, I couldn't decide what color I wanted my sentiment banner to be. So I'm also going to bring in some red, which is cherry on top, and then some white cardstock. So I did want to add a little bit of color to the back of my stitched heart. So I brought in some Distress Oxide in Festive Berries and just used a makeup brush to add some color to the background. So here's where I start playing with all of the different colored sentiment banners. I am just going to lay in the negative piece of where I cut out the red banner. This is going to help me line up my sentiments because I am going to stamp on all 3 colors, the red, the green, and the white, so I can see which one I actually want to use. So for the sentiment, I'm using a really cute sentiment from the Elfish Antics stamp sets, and it says, "Be a little naughty, it's Christmas." So I thought that sentiment went really well with how I'm going to end up using the images on my cards today. So you can see with that little negative piece of cardstock, it's super easy to line up my sentiment banners, and I can do all 3 really quickly here. So they're all stamped out using my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. And now I can go ahead and start putting together the first card. So I decided to go for the white heart. I love a lot of white cardstock on my cards. And I really like how that red Distress Oxide color just kind of gives a little bit of a background without having to do too much work. And here's where I'm trying to decide which color of sentiment I want to use. I end up going with the red one for this card. I'm just going to add some liquid adhesive, and I'm going to have that towards the bottom of the heart. I'm trying to center it where the flag banners come in there so that they're equal on either side of the heart. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap the candy cane around the neck of our little elf here. I thought this was a really fun, playful design for a Christmas card for maybe someone in your life who you fancy, maybe a partner, boyfriend, you name it. And you can change up the elves to suit whoever the card is going to, which I think is great. So I just thought her hands were positioned perfectly to make it look like she was holding that candy cane and kind of bringing him towards her with the candy cane. So she's being a little bit naughty so they can have some fun this Christmas. I'm just going to make sure that those are nice and adhered down, and then here's where I'm going to add the hearts just around the larger heart, and I think that finishes off that card nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere my card panel onto my card base, and as I mentioned, this is a standard card, so it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And there's the first card complete. Just going to add a few little highlights to the heart, and then on the red around the candy cane there to the bottom, and I'm also going to add some white highlights to both of their hats. So moving on to card number 2, I thought it would be fun while I had everything out to make a shaped card. So I'm going to use one of the Heffy Doodle stitched heart dies, and I'm just using my Score Buddy here to make my card base. Now you want to make sure that the top of whatever shape you're using, in this case the heart, is hanging off of the top of the card base so it doesn't cut all the way through. Now this is really heavyweight cardstock. I'm using 120-pound cardstock. I did run it through my Big Shot a few times. I also used a metal shim. I did need to use my scissors there a little bit, but that's just because that's a lot of cardstock going through my die cutting machine. So I also cut a panel of the cherry on top red cardstock for the front of my card. So you can see there now the heart is perfect on top. So with the card base, when you have it kind of going off the edge, you will not have that perfect heart shape. So you just want to cut another panel, whatever color you're using, even if you're using white, just to add to the top of your card base. I decided to bring the festive berries back in, and I did go over the entire cardstock with that. It gave it this really pretty shimmery color and just added a little bit of something extra to that cardstock. For this card, I decided to go with the white sentiment banner and using the same sentiment again and same layout. So I just wanted to show you that when you have a layout that you really like and images that you want to use more than once, but you don't want to make the exact same card over and over, you can go ahead and play around with your different shaped dies and come up with some fun shaped cards. I think this would also make a really cute tag as well if you wanted to do a matching card such as the A2 size card that I made and then the tag that coordinates with it. I think you could just punch a hole in the top and you could have a nice little tag that matches your card. For this one, I decided to use some confetti. This is some Trinity Stamps confetti, and I'm just going to sprinkle them around the card, and that just gives a little bit of shimmer. So there's the 2 cards today using the Elfish Antics stamp set. I hope you enjoyed seeing both of the card designs in an A2 size and a fun heart shaped. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you really soon in the next video. Bye!